All right, Nick, let's talk about the Oklahoma Sooners. The Sooners have got their feet right back under them after two losses. They come back with a big win against West Virginia, 59-20. So they are back with a vengeance coming into a big game against BYU. And I think a big part of this turnaround for the Sooners is they seem to have finally found their rushing attack with a new bright spot on this offense, and that is none other than freshman running back Gavin Sawchuk. This guy seems to be the missing piece, the juice, at least for now, to get this offense going. And I think he's had a phenomenal start to his career. Let's get into the article, talk about it, and we can talk about what we think about it on the other side. This is from Sooners Wire. It says last week against Oklahoma State Cowboys, Gavin Sawchuk started the game with a long 64-yard touchdown run. He finished the game with his first 100-yard game of the season. This week, on the first drive against the West Virginia Mountaineers, Sawchuk busted a 30-yard run to set up a first and goal from the 2-yard line, and he finished with another 100-yard game, going for 135 yards on 6.1 yards per carry. Over the past few weeks, Oklahoma appears to have found a running game, and most importantly, they found their running back. Sawchuk was the workhorse this week with 22 carries. Dalen Smothers and Tawi Walker were the only other running backs to get a touch, and they combined for 3 carries for just 4 rushing yards. It's safe to say Oklahoma may have found the guy they can lean on the rest of the way at running back. Now we'll have to see how far they can go with this revitalized rushing attack. Now, Nick, I think this is big. Oklahoma, they've always had a good air raid with Gabriel, and Gabriel in his own right is very potent with his legs. But having a good running back, I think, was crucial for this team, and they've been going back and forth. I think we did a story earlier this year. Just they had 3-4 guys that they were trying to cycle through because they couldn't exactly have anybody, make themselves be known as the guy. Now, finally, we see that young freshman Gavin Sawchuk steps up to the plate, and this finally could be the guy for Oklahoma, Nick. I'm curious to know what you think about Sawchuk's emergence in this Oklahoma offense, but Sooners fans, we got to know, coming up against BYU, let us know in the comment section below. What do you think the score to Oklahoma at BYU will be? Let us know in the comment section below. But Nick, what do you think about Sawchuk's emergence in this new Oklahoma running game?
So it's one of the things to understand about this Oklahoma football team, right? First of all, it's a good move. You got an exciting young freshman, right? It's kind of it's always a challenge, but anytime you're coming off with a couple losses, you want to kind of make some changes to your offense, especially when you got a freshman getting better and better. And that's one of the things people have to understand about this Oklahoma Sooners football team. After beating Texas, everyone's like, okay, Oklahoma's back to being the top contender in the Big 12, maybe going to college football, playoff, that kind of guy. It just seems like they were a year ahead of schedule. And we saw it the past couple weeks or prior to beating West Virginia, their 2 losses to Kansas and then following it up with a loss in Bedlam, right? So again, this was a team that was a little bit ahead of schedule after beating Texas, but still trending in the right direction. But I think it's a credit to how Venables is structuring this program, because I think he in his head understands that. And he's like, okay, look, we starting undefeated like we did, we didn't really expect that going in. We'll certainly take it. But the reality is we're building towards the future. We're building towards going into the SEC. And that's exactly what we've talked about Oklahoma, what they've done in the recruiting game. They've been recruiting and building an SEC competitive team. They're not building a team to win the Big 12 this season. If they certainly win the Big 12, they'll take it. But that's not really their strategy. And we're seeing it now that we're in the back third of the season. They're starting to play more freshmen, right? They're changing up defensive looks. They moved Stutzman to Mike linebacker. He's normally a will linebacker. They're doing more different rotations on defense. They're getting younger guys more reps, trying new things out. You look at other top contenders. You look at Texas, for example. They're not trying anything out. They're just trying to do whatever they can to stay alive because they're all in to win this year. Venables, and you can see how they play. Again, they're not thinking exclusively for 2024 and beyond, but it's clear their structure and design of their program, it's not predicated only on 2023 success. And when you have a long-term focus with your program, it generally works out well for you, especially when you got some of these young players. Sawchuk is a dynamic young running back. I think we're going to start to see how special a player he continues to grow and as he continues to grow and develop. But I tell you what, I really admire what the Sooners coaching staff has done, because anytime you have back-to-back losses like that and your program kind of feels like it's heading in the wrong direction, to stay calm and stay the course, say, look, We're building towards the future. We want to win now, and we will win now, but we're not all in on 2023. We want to make sure we're not just setting up everything for this year, but for the years to come as well. They make the moves to support both causes. Again, keeping your eye on the prize, keeping your focus on what your goal is. That's exactly what Venables is doing here. And I think Oklahoma fans, I think you're going to finish strong to the season. Whether you get into the Big 12 championship game, you're obviously going to need some help one way or the other for that to happen. But I think as you look to transition to the SEC, of between you and Texas right now, I think, in my opinion, there's no doubt that Oklahoma is much better suited for that transition. Texas is all in on 2023, and we'll see what the heck happens in 2024. Venables, who, by the way, made his money at Clemson, beating up SEC teams in big moments. He knows what he's getting ready to go to next season, and he's preparing his team to do just that. And this offensive change right here doesn't seem like a big move, but I think it's just another example of how he's making plans for this program. Again, building for the future.
Yeah, and I think this is also a big win, Nick, for another part of the offense that has to get SEC ready, and that's the offensive line. Offensive line, when McCade Matauer is talking about how this season their goal was to average their running backs at 5 yards a carry, and finally getting a back like Sawchuk back there, combined with this offensive line who is improving as well. They've done just that. Gavin Sawchuk has been absolutely phenomenal. I think through the last 2 games this year, he's averaged 6.8 and 8.7 yards per carry. This guy's been absolutely crazy. I think that he's a phenomenal running back, but give your offensive line that boost, that encouragement. They've had this goal all season. Hey, want to average 5 yards a carry, want to average 5 yards a carry. Have a guy come bust onto the seam. I got those backwards. Those 6.1 and 8.5 yards per carry were Oklahoma State 8.5, West Virginia 6.1. But have back-to-back weeks of absolutely huge games for the running game. The offensive line's got to feel good because they got to come in and face these absolutely monstrous SEC defensive lines. These are the kind of games you want to grow your offensive line, and this is a big boost to this program, like you said, heading and looking towards the future.
And you bring up a great point about getting ready for this offensive line in this running game. Because look, unless you get lucky and a Tim Tebow falls on your lap or a Cam Newton falls on your lap, the way you win consistently in the SEC, strong running back, strong offensive line, good quarterback play, right? It literally is that simple. Obviously, you like to have a great defense and things like that, but you can forgive a lot of woes if you have those 3 things. And right now we can look at Oklahoma and how they're playing. This is a team that's trying to be physically tougher. They're trying to run the football with the running backs more. They're leaning on that offensive line more. And again, it'll help them obviously the rest of the season with the bowl game and the rest of the Big 12 schedule. But again, it seems so obvious to me that Venables is looking at this team, this program, and he's preparing them to shift to the SEC. A&M didn't do that. We see where they are. Texas isn't doing that. I think they're going to struggle. I think Oklahoma, the rest of the year is going to be good. But I think when they move into the SEC, they're going to be very well prepared, and they're going to start off a lot better in the new conference than people think.